Hello class, it's Professor Streeter. In this video, I'm going to introduce the week 4 assignment for the ethics course and look at some of the materials that I've shared with you in the module for this week. So here we are, week 4. We're starting to think about moral relativism, and that is to say we are shifting from thought about well-being to thought about morality. This is a photograph of Mary Midgley, and she wrote a paper called Trying Out One's New Sword, in which she considers the position that she calls moral isolationism. And this is the idea that we can only ever really understand our own culture, and so therefore we have no authority or no ability to judge the practices and customs of other cultures, because we can never understand other cultures well enough to make judgments, positive or negative judgments about them. This is an interesting position called moral isolationism, and she spends her essay attacking this position or showing some problems with it. But it raises the larger question of what the basis of our moral judgments is. What are we doing when we say that something is morally acceptable or morally unacceptable? Or what are we talking about when we say that we have a moral reason to do something or not to do something? This is connected to the topic of well-being in the following sense. We are all aimed at living a thriving life, right? How should one live was our opening question. We should live a thriving life. We should strive for well-being, and we've been talking about what that consists in. And one thing that we might say about well-being is that it has something to do with your choices and your character and what sort of person you are becoming. And so that leads to a question, not just how should one live, but what kind of person should I want to become? On the assumption that the kind of person you become contributes to your well-being. It's not just a matter of luck. It's not just a matter of chance, that you have some control over whether your life is going well or not. And so do we have any reason to think that the project of cultivating a moral character is part of what it means to be on the path to happiness or be on the path to well-being? Right? Why suppose that our desires, we have desires for many sorts of things, why suppose that our desires lead toward the ethical or lead toward moral virtue? Right? If what we really want out of life is happiness or well-being, why suppose that that has anything to do with cultivating a good character or being a good person from a moral point of view? That's kind of one way of thinking about the connection. And that leads into thought about moral judgments of all kinds. But we make moral judgments of people's character. We think, that person has a good moral character. They're a good person. What's the basis for those kinds of judgments? And are they culturally relative? Do our ideas about what it means to be a good person, does that depend entirely on cultural customs and conventions and preferences? Or can we say something more objective about what it means to be a good person and how that contributes to your well-being? Okay, so that's setting up our topic. Here's what we're reading for the week. So the Midgley piece is a big focus, and there's also a piece by David Enoch called Why I Am an Objectivist About Ethics, and that's something that you will be taking a quiz on next week. So that's something to focus on. Enoch is defending an objective view about ethics, the idea that there is a basis for our moral judgments that goes beyond just our personal or our cultural preferences and customs. Right? There's more to doing the right thing than just doing what is customary or doing what is conventional around here or doing what I prefer. Okay, and so there's also a piece by Gensler and David Hume, both raising questions about the status of our moral judgments. And Schaefer-Landau develops those themes in chapter 19 of the Fundamentals of Ethics. I've shared some videos with you, so I encourage you to watch this slideshow, which looks at different ways of understanding the basis of our moral judgments. And so I walk you through that slideshow here and tie into the argument that Mary Midgley makes in her essay, and also the argument that Enoch makes in his essay. So these videos should help you connect the themes of chapter 19 in Schaefer-Landau to the arguments that Midgley and Enoch make. Both Midgley and Enoch are objectivists about ethics, or about morality. So the week 4 discussion here, and some of you have already posted, but is to think about those readings on the status of our moral judgments and orient yourself in that debate. Are you a relativist about morality? Why or why not? What are your reasons? I'm really interested in your reasons for thinking what you do. And make sure to relate what you say to one of the readings for this week, right? Give an example of your own that connects to the reading of the difference between relativism and a more objectivist account of morality. Okay? Reminding you the homework for this week. And so that's something you can post here in the discussion. If you click here, it takes you directly to the discussion. We've already got some posts from Noel and Jayla and others. Okay? So the homework assignment, to turn that in, you click this link and that will take you directly to this folder where you could submit your work. Okay. But it is to write the introduction to your essay, or a draft of the introduction. So start presenting the main claim, the thesis that you're going to explore in the rest of the essay. Aim to write as much as you can. Get as much out as you can on the page and then submit that by Sunday. I've attached the prompt here. If you click here, that will take you to the prompt. So you can look at the background for the essay again and the different topics. So make sure to choose one of these topics, but you don't have to answer all of these questions. These questions are meant to help you focus your thesis. What's the central claim that you want to make? Okay, so that's your task for this week, and that's the homework assignment. Going back here, I've shared some materials for you to help you think about the essay structure. So if you click here, this is a PDF file or a Google file, Google Doc that I've shared with you. You can download it. It lays out the organic structure of the essay. You're making an argument, so think of yourself as beginning in the introduction that you're writing this week as making a claim, right? What's the big claim you want to make? And then for the rest of the introduction, here, I'll make this a little bigger, devote your attention to defining that claim more carefully, right? Defining your basic concepts, explaining what you mean, and then laying out the line of reasoning that you're going to use to support that claim. So that's the work of the introduction. And then the introduction is moving, these arrows, you're moving toward, right, a problem or a question that your thesis is answering or resolving. So think about your essay that way. I'm making a claim that a person could disagree with, and I'm showing the reader in the body paragraphs how that claim answers my question or resolves an interesting problem that I think is worth exploring. And then by the end of the body of the paper, which you'll start writing next week, it should become clearer to the reader what your answer to that question is or how you're resolving that problem. And then ultimately, this last arrow points to the conclusion, the so what. What difference does it make? What have you shown, and what are the larger effects or implications of the argument you've made? That should come in the conclusion. If you scroll down here, I've got some bullet points reminding you of what you already know, what to do or what to look for in an introduction. You need a topic statement giving some background. Think of it as entering a conversation. How are you entering the conversation about hedonism or about the good life or about the relationship between egoism and altruism? How are you entering the conversation with Heath Wood about desire satisfaction theory? Whatever topic you choose to write about, make sure you give some background and show the reader how you're entering that conversation. And then the introduction should also make reference to the text, right? A citation, a quote, a paraphrase, and some explanation of what you're doing with the text, right? You're going to be defending Heathwood's argument, or you're going to be criticizing Heathwood, or you're going to be expanding on something Heathwood says and moving it in a different direction, right? Okay, say something about that in the introduction. If you have important concepts that are unclear, try to define them as best you can. Make the important distinctions between like subjectivism and objectivism, for example. How do you understand that distinction? That's something that can come out a little bit in the introduction. But the big piece here is framing your basic question, framing the problem that you're trying to address, and stating your thesis. That should all happen in the introduction, right? What's my argument? How am I going to defend it? So what's the basic structure of the essay moving forward? Or what's the line of reasoning that I'm going to develop? Try to get that out as much as you can in the introduction. Okay, so that's to help you think about structure. And the last piece I just want to show you here in the course materials, I'd like you to start using this as you read. And one of your homework assignments will ask you to make a reading outline for one of the readings. But this is to help you think about what you're doing when you're reading. So first, on the first read, skim it. What do I mean by skim? Read the introductory paragraph. Read the first and last sentence of each body paragraph. And then read the concluding paragraph, let's say of Midgley's article or of David Enoch's article on objectivism. So that's a skim. You're looking at the first paragraph, the last paragraph, and just the first and last sentence of each body paragraph. And then see, after you do a skim, see if you can answer these questions in your notes, right? Either on this template or in your own notes. What's the central claim or thesis based on your first read? What are some key concepts, principles, or assumptions that are being employed in the argument based on your first read? What's the main line of reasoning that supports the thesis? And what's the main conclusion? So these are ways of keeping track of the structure of the argument in something that you're reading. It'll also help you as you write, right? I should be able to look at your paper and answer some of these questions after reading through it on the first read. On the second read, this is more kind of in detail. Try to break down each paragraph into sections. So number, maybe you think each paragraph is a separate section, or maybe you think a section is made up of 3 or 4 paragraphs. Break the essay down into the chunks that you think are important. And then write down in this box, right, the paragraph or section number. Put that number in the book so you know what your notes are referring to. So next to each numbered paragraph or section in the outline, write a sentence that states the main point of the paragraph. Okay, so if you take the first paragraph in the reading, you put a little number 1 next to it in your book, and then you write number 1 here in the box, and write a sentence or two that states the main point of that paragraph or that section, that group of paragraphs. And then write a sentence that explains the functional role or the purpose of that paragraph in the argument as a whole. So what is that paragraph saying? What's the main point? And how does that point relate to the argument as a whole? Try to do as much of that in your notes as you can, right? Breaking the argument down bit by bit. That's the second read. I know this is a lot of work, but if you do this for 1 or 2 of the readings, I think you'll find that you're getting more from the reading and you're understanding more about the structure of the argument if you track it in your notes. It'll also help you write your own argument if you pay attention to the structure of other people's arguments. So I will ask you at some point to turn in a homework assignment where you use this template to break down the argument of one of the readings, but I'm showing it to you now so you know what it looks like. Okay, that's all for now. I just wanted to share these materials with you and show you what we're focusing on for this week. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me with an email. We can set up a time to meet individually. Hope you have a good day. Bye.